illegal acquisition of Kapkagaron Farm, LR number 5423/2 and LR number 6053 by Tindred Development Trust Company. Secondly, proposes that the matter of resettlement of squatters who have occupied the Kapkagaron Farm, LR number 5423/2 and LR number 6053 land for the last 50 years be given priority during settlement of residents in the area. Thirdly, is recommends investigation into the conduct of officers responsible for settlement of the squatters for failing to adhere to land laws in the course of their duties while settling residents, and that appropriate action, disciplinary action, be taken. And lastly, makes any recommendations or actions it deems fit in addressing the plight of the petitioners. And your petitioners will ever pray. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Kituru. Ordinarily, those who are interested can make comments, and if there's none, the petition. Yes, Mbui, on the petition? Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also rise to support that petition. I think, Mr. Speaker, there are too many issues on issues of land ownership that have historically been an issue. And I think one of the problems we are facing is that previously, I think the Commissioner of Lands used to have the power to just give out any public land however he wanted. But Kenyans in 2010, by promulgating the new constitution, they came up with the National Lands Commission. And Mr. Speaker, it is unfortunate 14 years after the National Lands Commission was, was initiated, or the idea was conceptualized, we still have so many issues. A lot of the petitions that come to this house, Mr. Speaker, are to do with issues to do with land. So I don't know what we are going to do as a house to make sure that this thing of land is sorted out. And that's why you can see, Mr. Speaker, that just recently, a whole region of Mavoko constituency had houses, over 10,000 houses, that were put up affordably by individuals, brought down. So, Mr. Speaker, we need to figure out how we can sort out this. Even the affordable housing program is facing challenges to do with land. So I don't know exactly what we'll do, but we need to figure out a solution for the land problem of this country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, MP for cases.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. I also rise to support that there is actual need to actualize the Constitution of Kenya 2010 as matters public land and community land. Most of the challenges that communities that are staying around large land is occupied by multinationals, which then at that time were given leases and they have lapsed. Up to then, silence has been experienced on what happens after there. Only that you see some change of activities, changes of names in terms of ownership or companies that are running those multinational, which depicts there are people somewhere silently, when they know that certain lease has come to an end, they silently exercise a process of changing the ownership and the lease period, minus including the community. And I dare say, Mr. Speaker, I think a matter needs now to be raised from this honorable house, that those multinational lands need now to be affected and even call upon resurveying of the same. Because we all understand that anything to do with public land comes to the interest of the natives and the community. Because big question is to arise, of the natives who are pushed away, where is the interest? The 10% provided by law, where is it? Right now, there are no spaces for public utility, no hospitals, no schools to build, yet those particular leases have lapsed, and as we know, when the lease lapses, the rights of that particular property reverts back to the original owner. And the original owner, in this case, are the community that were pushed away by the colonial farmers, then who end up being the multinational ownership of those particular lands. So I stand to say, it is time now that as Republic of Kenya, we need to take action on this. We have to be serious, we have to be candid, and implement the Constitution to the letter. Thank you so much.
Sorry, Minority, I'll come to you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to support this petition by Honorable Kitur. Mr. Speaker, land is a very emotive issue, and if somebody's land has been taken away, it's very, very bad. Mr. Speaker, we've got some lands adjudication officers who change the records in the books, and it's written in pencil. Next time you go and check, it is rubbed and put another name, and those faceless people is what we need to look at, Mr. Speaker, and the minister in charge together with the PS need to get to the bottom of those books which are written in pencil and can be rubbed at any time. So I support, Mr. Speaker.
Minority Leader.
Yes, Honorable Speaker, just to speak briefly on this petition, which I find very, very important. The Honorable Member must be commended for being bold and preparing this petition. Honorable Speaker, the issue we have which needs to be addressed, and I will be addressing you on this much later, is that under the Constitution, the National Land Commission was established at Article 67 with wide-ranging powers and functions. One of those functions was actually to initiate investigations on its own initiative or on a complaint into present or historical land injustices and recommend appropriate redress. I know the initial commission didn't do much. The commission under one Swazuri, it actually failed Kenyans. But I'm happy the present commission has tried to address some of these issues, even though it still needs to be given time. Honorable Speaker, we must be very, very careful, even as I call upon the relevant committee to expedite the processing of that petition. It has to be expedited. But we must be very careful as a House not to fall into a trap of basically clawing back on the gains we have made as a country over the years, especially on the matters of land reforms. Honorable Speaker, I will be addressing you on this matter later, and this is especially on the matter of attempting to reduce the powers, to usurp the powers of the Commission, to have the powers of the Commission usurped by the Cabinet Secretary. That's an issue that this House must deal with frontally, and I'll be addressing you on that issue extensively later, Honorable Speaker. We can't allow, as a House, to have any other authority or office or person usurp the powers that have been given by the Constitution to the National Land Commission, especially the power to determine the value of land and to actually act on behalf of the public of Kenya, insofar as land management is concerned. Honorable Speaker, I lend my support to that petition. Thank you.
Member for Mosop.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity to support this petition from the Member of Parliament of Nandi Kitur. Mr. Speaker, land is a very sensitive issue that directly truly affects the socioeconomic stability of any society. And the issue of land in Nandi dates back to the time of the colonial times. And this issue of Kapkagaron land is one of the many land injustices that we've really experienced in Nandi. Of the 400 claims that came forward to NLC, Mr. Speaker, 10% came from Nandi. We have a lot of people who were displaced, a lot of residents who were truly displaced when the colonialists came in, so that they used the land to cultivate, to grow things like tea, sugarcane, and many other things. So the original people who lived in those lands were displaced. And some of this displacement did not come even during the colonial times. Some of them just happened from the year maybe in the 70s, 80s, up to the late 2000s when this really happened. So, Mr. Speaker, it is a very, very serious matter, and I really applaud Member of Parliament Kitur for bringing this matter so that we can really discuss in full, and also to encourage NLC to look into it so that those people who are displaced can actually be given back their land. The multinationals need to really sit down and figure a way to compensate the original people who own the land. So, Mr. Speaker, I truly stand to support this petition by the member. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Maungu, member for Luanda.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support the petition by my good friend and brother because, as we all know, land is a factor of production, Mr. Speaker. And we have had a lot of land injustices in this country because of leases that expire. And, Mr. Speaker, we've witnessed situations whereby people have been chased, sometimes the property demolished because of purported expired leases, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, the idea by my brother to have this petition before the petition committee, Mr. Speaker, is a great relief. And I hope that and pray that the petition committee, Mr. Speaker, will be able to work on it fast, Mr. Speaker. However, Mr. Speaker, as you may have known, so many petitions have been given to the petitions committee that have not been processed. My fear will be that such a great petition will again delay before the same committee. So my prayer is that as important as the petition may be, the petition committee may be forced to work harder and look into the issue of land, because land is a very motive factor, and we all know that land is a factor of production. And therefore, delaying on this petition, Mr. Speaker, will be delaying on justice of many other people who may be affected by the same. I stand to support. Thank you.
Oundo.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I must take this opportunity to sincerely thank the petitioner for bringing up into this matter the issue of land, historical land injustice to the fore of national debate and parliamentary debate. Honorable Speaker, under Article 67 of the Constitution of Kenya, the National Land Commission is mandated to initiate investigation on its own initiative or on complaint into present and historical land injustice and recommend appropriate redress. I also want to join my colleague from Luanda that probably, as much as this brings the matter to the purview of House, Parliament, and probably brings it to the national debate, probably the best and easiest place to have sent this petition would have been the National Land Commission. They have the wherewithal, they have got the technology, they have the technical know-how to probably expeditiously address this matter. Whichever way we look at it, Honorable Speaker, whichever recommendation the House makes will have to be referred back to the National Land Commission to address this matter. And then, Honorable Speaker, this brings into question the issue of land management system in this country. The issue of land information management system in this country. This process began with the Njonjo Commission report. This process continued in the Ndungu report. This process was started a few years ago in the Ministry of Lands to try and digitize land information management system to an extent that, Honorable Speaker, nobody will ever claim land does not belong to themselves and proceed to register in their name. Again, Honorable Speaker, the provision of the Land Registration Act is explicitly clear on the process to be followed. I sincerely believe, as much as Parliament is obligated to listen to any petitions, I would, if he had consulted me, I would have advised him the easier and expeditious way of handling the matter. But for the fact that he has brought it to public debate, it's a good petition, and we pray and hope that the Public Petition Committee will do justice so that within the shortest time possible, the matter is determined and referred to the relevant constitutional commission to resolve the matter. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Melly.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I want to thank the petitioner, Honorable Member for Nandi Hills. And Honorable Speaker, I want to say that this petition is a tip of the iceberg on the land issues in this country. Land issues in this country dates back to the colonial period, where the European settlers displaced hundreds of thousands of Kenyans from the White Highlands. In our county, Nandi County was one of the seriously affected areas. Kericho, most parts that we have in this country. But to delve into the issue that we have before this committee, which Honorable Member has just brought in, Mr. Speaker, is to really look at what are the issues which are bedeviling Kenyans and affecting Kenyans every other time that a petition is raised. If you look at the issue of Ngerek or the Chepkumia petition that was brought before this house, where the government took land and they took it and made it a forest. Up to today, the people have not been compensated. We have former island areas, which was European settled areas in Chemelil, in many parts, which is within Nandi County. Right now, the locals are settling there without title deeds. Honorable Speaker, I want to say that this petition needs to be looked at expeditiously, need to be actually handled so that the issues affecting the landless people, which are very common in Nandi, more so in Nandi Hills, in Tinderet, and in other parts of the country. I remember one time there was a petition from the coast region. There has been petitions from many of other counties. Honorable Speaker, I want you to direct that the petitions committee need to look into this and expeditiously bring the report to the House, and the House has to have a resolution on how to handle land issues facing Kenyans across the country. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Cynthia Muge.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me an opportunity to add my voice and actually support this petition that has been brought to this Honorable House by the Honorable Member, Bernard Kitur, Member for Parliament, Nandi Hills. Honorable Speaker, this issue and the lands issue in Nandi County is a very emotional, emotive, and thorny issue, Honorable Speaker. And as it has been put by other members, Honorable Speaker, this is the tip of the iceberg. This particular land that we're speaking about, Honorable Speaker, has a whole community living there with zero facilities. They have zero schools, they have zero health facilities, and nothing that any human being in a settlement, Honorable Speaker, need. And Honorable Speaker, as you have seen the way it has been put in the petition under bullet number 8, that in 1994, Honorable Speaker, the land was transferred from one entity to another and to another in one day, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, me and you, being residents and Kenyans, know the bureaucracy that surrounds land. Honorable Speaker, the fact that the land was transferred from one entity to the other in one day is fishy, Honorable Speaker, enough, and is actually a red flag. So, Honorable Speaker, we also want to speak to the matters that have been here, and we want to ask that, Honorable Speaker, you accord the seriousness, Honorable Speaker, that this matter deserves, so that it can be able to get a committee to be able to look into these issues, Honorable Speaker, so that we can once and for all, in a small way, Honorable Speaker, start sorting out the injustices, Honorable Speaker, that were meted on our people, especially on the issues of land, Honorable Speaker. So that, Honorable Speaker, we avoid lands that are coming back to the legitimate people being given to pseudo companies, Honorable Speaker, that are calling themselves the trustees of the people, whereas, Honorable Speaker, they are fraudsters and they are not actually, they do not have any interest of the people, Honorable Speaker. So, Honorable Speaker, as a resident of Nandi County, as a representative of those people, Honorable Speaker, who have suffered, Honorable Speaker, for a very long time, I support this petition, and I pray, Honorable Speaker, just like the petitioner has prayed, that this House, Honorable Speaker, which has resources and has the capacity, should be able to help these people resolve this issue, Honorable Speaker, and the people of Nandi can be able to get back their lands so they can be able to go forward development-wise. I appreciate the opportunity to add my voice, Honorable Speaker.
I want us to end here. Professor Bartol, then Farah, you'll close. Oh, Milemba, you? Wow. Okay, Professor, take 2 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me also the chance to add my voice on this petition. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank Honorable Kitur from Nandi Hills. Madam Speaker, land issues in Kenya is a time bomb. And specifically, it would seem that the Land Commission of Kenya is a toothless institution, because it seems it's not able to deal with the land issues in Kenya. Mr. Speaker, I'm sure it's not just in Nandi Hills, but this is a problem which is in every part of Kenya. Mr. Speaker, I want to bring a case of Moiben constituency where we have several disputes. For instance, we have one referred to as Kamiasore settlement scheme. We have another one referred to as ground loan. Mr. Speaker, this is a situation where during planting season, we have different farmers plowing the land, we have different farmers planting, and at the final end, we have a different group of people harvesting. So we have disputes throughout the year. So how I wish this matter would be taken up seriously, and the committee in charge to bring a report, and I think it will go a long way in setting a record for all the other issues in all the parts of Kenya. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Farah, you'll close. Let me finish with these two members first. Milemba, then Raso, then I'll come to you, Farah. 2 minutes, Mheshimiwa.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and let me support this petition. Honorable Speaker, we have what we call the predisposition in legal language. The predisposition has also been highlighted by Anton Toynbee in his theory of land ownership. That is the first occupancy theory. And therefore, land ownership in Kenya is based on the first occupancy theory, that those who walked first in the land occupied, measured it, and actually bounded it to become theirs. With the coming of Europeans, and that reminds me of the Maasai agreements of 1904 and 1911, and other agreements that were done in Central and Rift Valley, especially Nandi areas, land moved to Europeans through companies. The leases of 99 years and 100 years were thought to be unmanageable, and they would never end. Honorable Speaker, they have ended. And this parliament must now stand to the Land Commission to actually bring back this land to the original owners, who were the first occupiers of the land. It's never a time bomb, because we have to deal with it now. I will be calling upon the committee concerned, the petition committee, to handle this matter as a precedent to start handing over the land to the original owners. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Dida. Give the microphone to Honorable Raso. There you are.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I support this petition. By the time a member stands on the floor of this House to present a petition, it means something is not working or an institution is sleeping on the job. Honorable Speaker, our Constitution is very clear. Land is either private, public, or communal. Land does not exist in perpetuity. It must belong somewhere. It is only in Kenya that we find people as squatters all their lifetime. How can Kenyans live as squatters in all parts of this country without legislators or the government of the day taking notice? I think through such petition, this House has been provided the right opportunity to address itself. Finally, Honorable Speaker, the right to property ownership, yourself as a lawyer of repute, you must have presented issues in court of individuals having issues of land. I think at the bottom of it is to accept that land belongs somewhere. It just does not exist in perpetuity. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Farah.
Mr. Speaker, land is a very emotive issue in this country. Mr. Speaker, we fought for our independence because of the dispossession of Kenyans from their rightful ancestral lands. It's a pity. We say in my language, if you steal a camel and the camel gives birth to a calf, that calf is still a stolen property. You could not say because I only stole one camel and the camel gave birth to a calf, the calf does not become yours. It's still belongs to the original owner of the camel. This land was stolen from original Africans, Kenyans in here by the colonialists. And when they were stealing it, for those of you who have studied law, they called it by the will of the crown. And a native did not have a right to land. Today, 63 years after independence, I don't know where the Talai clan is. The clan of Ole Koitalel, Ole Samoy. I don't know where they are. But they don't have land and they don't have a livelihood and they are poor and they're staying somewhere as squatters. And the ancestors of those people, whether they converted that into big companies of tea farms and coffee farms or whatever it is, are the ones enjoying this. Mr. Speaker, we must have a land policy that addresses the historical injustices of the expropriation of the Africans' land. Where does the Dedan Kimathi's family live today? How many acres of land do they have? How many acres of land does that family have today? Hardly anything. The freedom fighters, the Mau Mau fighters, where are they? And we claim that we are an independent country here with a national assembly of our own and we make our own laws. You cannot correct, you can't pretend to be serving Kenyans when you cannot correct the historical injustices. This petition is a good one. And if I am asked, I will say, give back the land to the original owners. I don't care whether you're called Kakuzi or you're called Sassini or you call yourself anything. The land belongs to those Nandis of those days. They need their land back. It belongs to those Kikuyus of those days. They need their land back. You try to transfer the problem to Lamu now by taking the people from Central Province to go and stay in Lamu, take over the land of other people there. And as a consequence of that, we have insecurity there. We have insecurity there. Because big wigs in our political structure here took over those lands, then in turn everybody is looking for a weaker person to take over from. Mr. Speaker, if we don't address this thing, it's going to become a very big issue in this country. There is going to be a serious civil war in this country if we do not address the issue of the coastal land. The coastal lands, which have been taken over by other people. You think the sons and the grandsons of those people are going to sit back and just watch what was done to their great-grandfathers and grandfathers, what was done to Koitalelo Ole Samoy? Your time is up. Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. I support this petition.
Clerk, when I say 2 minutes, I mean 2 minutes. You favored Honorable Farah with 5 minutes, unlawfully. But thank you for your contribution. Honorable members, this petition stands committed to the Committee on Public Petitions and to report back in the stipulated time and our standing orders. And members who bring petitions, you have a duty to follow up the progress of your petitions with this committee, because I've even given them time to work out of the sitting schedules to reduce the backlog. Kandia, I see you here. You are a member of the Petitions Committee. Your committee must continuously pull up. Eh? Yes, I gave you authority to sit out of the normal times and continue doing so. After recess, I want to see some results from your committee. You've got, yes, yes, okay. Honorable members, allow us to go back to order number 2. Allow us to go back to order number 2 for some 2 short communications. Communication number 1. Honorable members, I wish to introduce to you a delegation from the County Assembly of Makueni who are seated in the Speaker's Gallery. The delegation comprises 6 members of the County Assembly, led by their Speaker, the Honorable Douglas Mbilu. They are accompanied by 5 members of staff, led by the Deputy Clerk of the County Assembly. The delegation is in the National Assembly to learn on the scheduling of business in the Assembly and other aspects on the conduct of the business of the Assembly. Honorable members, on my own behalf and on that of the National Assembly, I welcome the delegation to Parliament and wish them fruitful deliberations. And as a matter of addition, this afternoon, the House Business Committee welcomed the Speaker and his team into our meeting, and we had good exchanges. The second communication, members, is to invite members who profess the Islamic faith, members who profess the Islamic faith, to an iftar by the Speaker. As you are aware, our brothers and sisters of the Islamic faith are observing the holy month of Ramadan, which commenced last week. The Right Honorable Speaker of the Senate and I hereby extend an invitation to all members of the Islamic faith in both houses of Parliament for an iftar dinner to be held on Thursday, 21st March 2024 at Serena Hotel in Nairobi from 6 p.m. We have also invited the leadership of the House to the dinner. Honorable members, I take this opportunity to wish the Muslim community Ramadan Mubarak. I thank you. Order. Irene Mayaka, you are not invited. Honorable members, allow me to acknowledge in the speakers and public galleries the following schools or institutions: Kenyatta High School, Othaya, Nyeri; Terige Boys School from Mgwen, Nandi; Learning and Discovery Africa, I don't know if that's a school or a college, from Westlands, Nairobi; Chania Girls High School from Thika Town, Kiambu; Kenyatta University, Kasarani, Nairobi. On my behalf and on behalf of the whole House, we welcome them to the House of Parliament. Thank you. Next order.
Order number 5, papers.
Majority Leader.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, as I lay these papers, I would also like to take this opportunity to send a message of condolence to students of my alma mater, Kenyatta University, for the loss of their colleagues. And I wish them quick recovery, those that are sick and injured, and those that the Lord took, I wish them, the Lord rest them in eternal peace. Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay papers today on the table of the House today, Tuesday, March 19th, 2024. 1, the following statutory instruments with accompanying regulatory impact statements and report on stakeholders' consultations from the Ministry of Mining, Blue Economy and Maritime Affairs. A, legal notice number 49 of 2024 relating to the Fisheries Management and Development Beach Management Units, Regulations 2024 and the explanatory memorandum. B, legal notice number 50 of 2024 relating to the Fisheries Management and Development Inland Fisheries Regulations 2024 and explanatory memorandum. C, legal notice number 51 of 2024 relating to the Fisheries Management and Development Recreational Fisheries Regulations 2024 and the explanatory memorandum. D, legal notice number 52 of 2024 relating to the Fisheries Management and Development Fish Levy Trust Fund Order 2024 and the explanatory memorandum. E, legal notice number 53 of 2024 relating to the Fisheries Management and Development Marine Fisheries Regulations 2024 and explanatory memorandum. F, legal notice number 54 of 2024 relating to the Fisheries Management and Development General Regulations 2024 and explanatory memorandum. G, legal notice number 55 of 2024 relating to the Fisheries Management and Development Safety and Quality Regulations 2024 and explanatory memorandum. And H, legal notice number 56 of 2024 relating to the Fisheries Management Development Aquaculture Regulations 2024 and the explanatory memorandum. 2. Legal notice number 51 of 2024 relating to the Public Finance Management Kenya Millennium Development Fund Regulations 2024 from the National Treasury. And lastly, annual status reports on water, sanitation and irrigation 2023 from the Ministry of Water, Sanitation and Irrigation. Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay.
Thank you, Majority Leader. Chairperson, Budget and Appropriations Committee. Dendi Nyoro. Any member of Chair Budget? Who is the Vice Chair? Mary Emase. Are you the Vice Chair Budget? Don't you have a report to table?
Yes.
You have it?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the House today, Tuesday, 19th March 2024. The report of the Budget and Appropriations Committee on its consideration of the Division of Revenue Bill, National Assembly Bill number 14 of 2024. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. Next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion.
We have none. Next. Member for Githunguri. That's Shamba. Didn't I see Honorable Shamba in the House? Owen Baya, where is your member?
I thought I also saw Mushamba in the House a few minutes ago. So
I saw her walking, greeting everybody.
I think her paraphernalia is here, but she said she has evaporated.
Okay, let's go to the next. We'll come back to that when she comes.
Order number 7, questions and statements.
Honorable Ali Wario, MP Garsen. Give the Honorable Wario the mic.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I request for a statement regarding the disappearance of Mr. John Kopesha Abdirova, who is an employee at TARDA. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to the provision of Standing Order 44.2c, I wish to request for a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Administration and Internal Security regarding the disappearance of Mr. John Kopesha Abdirova of ID number 9769707 from Garseni constituency. Honorable Speaker, on Thursday, 8th February 2024, Mr. John Kopesha Abdirova of ID number 9769707 disappeared under mysterious circumstance after he was last seen having dinner in Gamba Tana Resort Guest House at around 10 p.m. The disappearance, which was reported at Gamba Police Station under OB number 06/12 2024 has caused distress to his family on his whereabouts and safety. Further, the incident raises serious concern regarding the protection of fundamental rights of individuals pursuant to Article 29 of the Constitution. Honorable Speaker, it is against this background that I seek a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Administration and Internal Security on the following. 1. Could the chairperson provide a report on the whereabouts of Mr. John Kopesha Abdirova and the status of investigation by the police on his disappearance as reported under the OB number 06-12-2024. Number 2, what measures has the government taken to ensure that the said person is expeditiously traced and reunited with his family? Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Wario. Tongoyo, where is the, yes, Dida Raso, can you bring a statement in 2 weeks?
Obliged, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Next, Geoffrey Ruku, member from Mbeere North.
Honorable Speaker, I rise to request for a statement regarding tax incentives claimed by special economic zones, developers, operators, and enterprises. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 44-2C, I rise to request for a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning regarding the tax incentives claimed by special economic zone developers, operators, and enterprises by way of waiver and exemptions. Honorable Speaker, the Special Economic Zone Act of 2015 was enacted to inter alia provide a framework for establishment of special economic zones, the promotion and facilitation of global and local investors, and the development and management of enabling environment for trade and investment. Since the enactment of the Act, over 35 special economic zones have been gazetted. Despite the large number of gazetted zones and massive tax incentives that they claim annually, the number of special economic zones investors in the country seem to be incommensurate, and the special economic zones are categorized with low productivity, which has made their impact indemonstrable. Further, the Special Economic Zones Authority website shows that only 3 of the gazetted special economic zones are public, while the rest are private. Honorable Speaker, the foregoing state of the affairs could be the pointers to a likelihood of a compromised integrity of special economic zones. This could particularly be exploited by unscrupulous land dealers purportedly selling the land within the special economic zones without paying taxes and duties to unsuspecting Kenyans and investors into economic exploitation without any economic benefits. Honorable Speaker, it is again and the type of jobs created for Kenyans by each of the zones, including the quantum of pay-as-you-earn taxes paid for each year. 4, what quantum of exemptions and waivers have been extended to each economic zone developer, operator, and enterprise in respect of corporation tax, withholding taxes, value-added taxes, including VAT on imports and import duties for each year since 2015. 5, what measures has the National Treasury, the Kenya Revenue Authority, and the Special Economic Zone Authority put in place to forestall abuse of special economic scheme, including the reporting mechanisms? I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Ruku. Chair of Finance, Kimani.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I'd like to thank Honorable Ruto for being seized of this matter. Honorable Speaker, the Finance Act of 2023, we created several incentives to SEZs and EPZs in this country. However, since that enactment, Honorable Speaker, we've seen a lot of gazettement of very new and many those SEZ and EPZs. Some of them are even private people's properties. Honorable Speaker, the questions being sought by Honorable Ruto, we would like to handle this matter comprehensively. And so my request would be, even if you would approve, that instead of submitting just a statement to this House, Honorable Speaker, that we make it an inquiry, so that we make sure that we sort out these loopholes that these unscrupulous businesses are using in our SEZs and EPZs, denying us the required revenues, Honorable Speaker, and making it uncompetitive to other businesses and manufacturers that do not necessarily operate within these SEZ and EPZs, much of which, as I've said, have been irregularized, Honorable Speaker. So our request as a committee is that if we are to answer the 5 questions sought by the Honorable Ruto comprehensively, then we'd like to make an inquiry, we'd like to make it an inquiry, visit those SEZs, visit those EPZs, see the actual impact on the losses made in terms of our revenues, both pay, VAT, excise, and all those other taxes, Honorable Speaker, and even the impact of that on export and the competitiveness of the products made in these EPZs and SEZs vis-a-vis those that are made by other manufacturers and businesses that don't necessarily operate in this privileged space, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Chairman. I will exercise my discretion under Standing Order 218 and accede to your request. You may proceed under 218-2, and the committee can proceed as you have proposed. Time limit, I'll give you a month. Thank you. Yes, Jared? Jared?
Firstly, I thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity. And I've got quick twin issues to run by you, if you allow me. Firstly,
something related to this or totally different?
No, different. I thought we are done with statements.
There is one more statement.
All right.
I'll give you an opportunity after
thank
that.
you. Thank you.
The next statement is Ondo. Something to do with what? Yes?
Speaker, I was just wondering loudly, under the standing orders of this House, special economic zones are oversighted by the Committee of Trade, Industry and Cooperative. An inquiry thought of through by the chair of the Committee of Finance probably it would have been appropriate if there could be some kind of collaboration or a joint committee, because occasionally the same issues, we grapple with the same issues in our committee to wonder what's the economic impact of the incentives, or do they simply amount to tax expenditures that are adding no value to to the economy of this country. So I was just seeking your indulgence if you could make it a joint committee.
When the statement came to me, take your seat, I actually thought in that direction, but when I read it carefully, it is dealing with matters of taxes and finance, much more than trade. But should it be necessary for the two committees to jointly act, I'll direct the clerk to speak to both of the chairmen and advise accordingly. But I think the pertinent issues raised relate much more to taxation and finance than trade. But you have a point, it had crossed my mind severally when I looked at the matter. Next member for Mwala, Vincent Musyoka. Yes, Kawaya.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 44-2C, I rise to request for a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Administration and Internal Security regarding the mysterious death and cremation of Mr. William Alfred Mulwa Mutilangi, a Kenyan citizen of passport number CK32227. Honorable Speaker, until his death, Mr. Mutilangi was a renowned innovator working for Pepsi International in the state of New York, United States of America. Following his death, his remains were cremated in the USA by people who were not related to him under a power of attorney prepared by Kahudhu and Co-Advocates, a Kenyan law firm. The power of the attorney was obtained by one Mr. Bakari, an alleged Tanzanian national who claimed to be the deceased son. Honorable Speaker, of note, the deceased relatives were neither aware nor informed of the cremation, and this raises concerns on the motive and the aerial cremation. The family of the deceased has not been able to establish the cause of death because the funeral home where the remains of Mr. Mutilangi had been preserved declined to provide information, citing that it was receiving many inquiries from multiple interested parties. Honorable Speaker, it is against this background that I seek a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Administration and Internal Security on the following matters. 1, what is the status of investigations into the suspicious hospitalization, mysterious death, and hurried cremation of Mr. Mutilangi in the USA under a power of attorney by Kahudhu and advocates under unclear circumstances without involvement of the family of the deceased? 2, what steps has the government taken to ensure that all perpetrators of the death and the issuers of the suspicious power of attorney for the cremation of Mr. Mutilangi are brought to book and prosecuted? 3, what actions has the government taken to ensure that Mr. Mutilangi's family is protected from threats by persons likely to be associated with his death, including securing them from being disinherited from the estate of their deceased kin? 4, what measures has the government put in place to ensure that all Kenyans who die in the diaspora are well preserved and their remains efficiently transported back to their families if they so wish? I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Vincent, are you sure you directed this statement to the correct committee? If your man died in the US, don't you think it's more a foreign affairs matter than internal affairs? Yes, Raso? Just let me hear Raso.
Okay.
Give to Dida Raso.
Mr. Speaker, I think you are right,
yes,
because that is a matter for foreign affairs and not actually Ministry of Interior, because the death happened in a foreign land.
It's a matter in foreign jurisdiction, Kawaya, so we route your request to the committee chaired by Honorable Koech. Is it defense and foreign? I think they'll do more justice to your response than internal security.
Maybe, Mr. Speaker, the thinking around this is that there's a criminal element to this statement, and I am wondering how the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is going to be capable to handle the criminal
you have
element.
your day with the internal affairs. Don't come back complaining.
Mr. Speaker. Unless, Mr. Speaker. Yeah?
Honorable Kawaya.
All right.
I'm advised by the clerk, and I believe to be true, that your matter will be handled by Defense and Foreign.
Defense and Foreign.
Yes.
Thank you.
So if you want to make any progress inquiry, go to Defense and Foreign.
That would be...
Dida Raso and his team have very little to do with foreign jurisdiction.
I can see.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Jared Okello.
Yes. I thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity. I've got two quick issues to run by you and by the House, Honorable Speaker. Firstly, is to thank you, Mr. Speaker, and your office for the material and emotional support that you offered the Okello family when we lost our brother Reverend Shem Okello.
Our collective condolences to you.
Thank you very much. And also to thank my colleagues who contributed quite generously and lessened the Okello family's burden to pass a dignified send-off to the late brother. And we hope that God will keep him in his glory. Honorable Speaker, the second limb of my concern relates to a communication that came from the National Government CDF Board yesterday to our respective fund managers, Honorable Speaker. Now, in that communication, all the fund managers are required to recall the proposals and remove anything touching on toilets to junior secondary schools, Honorable Speaker. Now, besides the fact that we only have 2 months into a new financial cycle, Honorable Speaker.
Toilet construction or toilets?
Yes, toilet construction, Honorable Speaker.
Yes.
Toilet construction.
Yes.
So we only have 2 months into a new financial year, Honorable Speaker. But again, they are putting emphasis on building classrooms and not toilets, Honorable Speaker. Now, you cannot build a classroom without sanitation at the end of the day, Honorable Speaker. Even in our very simple homes that we erect in the villages, or even here in the city, you start by a latrine or a toilet before you come up with the substantive structure, Honorable Speaker. So this is a concern that has been raised. We, just the other year, had to thwart the efforts of the same NGCDF board when they applied a retroactive law on NGCDF Act as amended, Honorable Speaker. So this is also another way of delaying the projects by our constituencies, Honorable Speaker. And we only have 2 months. We only have next month and May into a new financial year, Honorable Speaker. So we have received communication from our managers asking us what to do in light of this, Honorable Speaker. So you have always come to the rescue of this House when such confusions arise, and I believe, Honorable Speaker, that with your indulgence and your intervention on this, let us retain what we have 2 months into the new financial year. And when we shall come up with new proposals for the year 2024-2025, then we can put all those concerns that they have into perspective and infuse them in those proposals as and when they will require them, Honorable Speaker. I thank you.
Where is Musa Sirma? Is there any member of the NGCDF committee in the House? Who is the Vice Chair? Majority Leader, you've heard what Jared is saying?
Honorable Speaker, I have heard what my friend Jared Okello has said. And it's true that NGCDF board has been asking fund managers and MPs to revise some of the proposals that have been sent. I, for one, was asked to revise mine. and I diligently did that so that I can fast-track the process. But more importantly, I think we need to have a conversation with the board so that things that are specific to constituencies, because MPs and fund managers understand the issues that they require in their constituencies. They should not be blocked from implementing. And actually, a lot of these proposals come from public participation. And because they come from public participation, the board, I don't think, should have a mandate to overturn something that came from a public participation. And therefore, I think constituencies should be allowed to implement their projects as mandated by the constituents. But we will also engage the board so that we understand why they are bringing these new things.
Is it a Jared Okello concern or is it a widespread concern? That's what...
I think a lot of the changes that have come in have affected a lot. I said, I was asked to make amendments to my proposal, and I thought some of them were ridiculous because that's what my people want. Why do you want me to do something else? I know there has been this issue of walls that they have said you cannot build walls for using NGCDF funds. Several things that have come out. But I think we need to sit down with them so that we align to the demands of the constituents and what the constituency requires. I thank you.
Yes, Makali Mulu. 1 minute.
Yeah, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I think the matter being raised by Honorable Gerard is a very important matter because this particular year, Honorable Speaker, I think our select committee on CDF has let us down. This is the second time things have been done and procedurally. And I think the board needs to be told that there is a CDF Act and we also have regulations which very clearly state what should be done. It is not their work to micromanage constituencies. Their work is to look at policy issues and based on that, Honorable Speaker, guide the constituencies. They are micromanaging constituencies, which I don't think is fair. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, as a first-time member of Parliament, the only resource that I have to serve the people who elected me is the CDF. And the board guided me to go to the people and come up with proposals that were supposed to be implemented over a 2-year period. Those proposals were documented, discussed, and verified by the people in confirmation meetings. For the board to come midway and try to change the process that is already understood by the members of the public is not only unfair, but it is making us appear in bad light among the people who elected us. Honorable Speaker, the fact that we are 2 months to the end of the financial year and the board is still playing back and forth.
Made your point. Nikal?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think the most important thing that the board for NGCDF should do now is to disburse money. To come with problems here and there, bringing the proposals back and forth is basically a delaying tactic. We are far gone into the year, we need the money. You can't build classrooms, add more children, and you don't put toilets. What we need, let us have the money and use it. The year is ending. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mbui.
Mr. Speaker, you know, I think the CDF board is going overboard because they have, the mandate is just basically to implement what members get from the general public. And Mr. Speaker, there is a law that we use for NGCDF. And that law does not prohibit any constituency from building a perimeter wall for a school. Because, Mr. Speaker, the school could be full of children that sneak out at night and they needed a wall so that they can be kept in. There is no law that prohibits a school from building toilets for their children. So these members of the board need to be careful, Mr. Speaker, and stop breaking the law. I think, Mr. Speaker, this one we must stand firm and say no. Let those things that the public want done in our schools be done as per the law.
Mutunga.
Yeah, thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, let me join my colleagues in asking the CDF board to release our money. Honorable Speaker, whatever they have released right now cannot service the 40% required for bursaries. You are at a loss as member of parliament to know whom should you give bursary. Are you going to give the universities and colleges? Are you going to give the secondary schools, or is it the day secondary schools? So we need that money, Honorable Speaker, and I think they are taking a little bit too long. Thank you.
I think we'll end there. Where is Musa Sirma? Is not here. Owen Bayer, you're directed to get Musa Sirma to bring a statement tomorrow at 2:30 on this matter. Members,
I am.
It is not true that the board's duty is only to disburse money, but if what you are complaining is true, they're also overreaching themselves.
Okay.
So get Musa Sirma.
I am unreliably informed that Musa Sirma might be out of the country.
Is out of the country?
Yes.
Who is the vice chair of the committee?
I think it's Honorable Tandaza. Tandaza Sawa is the vice chair.
Tandaza has been here.
Yes, he's around. So
tell him to bring a statement tomorrow at 2:30.
Okay. Much obliged, Mr. Speaker.
Before we go to the next order, allow me to acknowledge the following institutions in our galleries, both public and Speaker's Gallery. In the Speaker's Gallery, we have Mamangina University, Gatundu South, Kiambu. We have Ikuda Boys Secondary School from Kitui South, Kitui. We have Kiongwani Secondary School from Kilome, Makueni. In the public gallery, we have Karai Day Secondary School from Kikuyu, Kiambu. Tengecha Boys Secondary School from Boreti, Kericho. Kihato Girls Secondary School from Kurueni, Nyeri. Wamutitu Secondary School from Kurueni, Nyeri. On behalf of the Speaker and the whole House, I welcome the students and their teachers to the House of Parliament. Next order.
Order number 8, motion. Report of the Auditor General on financial statements of selected state corporations. Mover to reply.
Honorable members, I've been requested by the chairperson of Special Funds Accounts Committee to reorganize the order paper, and have acceded that by the time we possibly reach order number 15, she will have left to go and observe her religious rights and duties. So I direct that that order be moved to Thursday morning. And honorable members, House Business directed that you will have a sitting on Thursday morning from 9:30. So be notified and be in the House on Thursday morning at 9:30. Mover to reply, Chair Public Investments Committee on Commercial Affairs and Energy. That's Posing.
Yeah, thank you, Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to reply. And in replying, Honorable Speaker, I want to thank members, honorable members of this House for supporting us and supporting our report. And being made and Speaker, also allow me to thank my committee for a good job, and your officers, the Office of the Clerk, for doing a good job for us. And with those few remarks, Honorable Speaker, I beg to reply.
Thank you, Honorable Posing. Honorable members, order DK. Order Kasalu. Take your seats. The member for Kwale. Take your seat. Honorable members, I now put the question at order number 8, which is that this House adopts the report of the Public Investments Committee on Commercial Affairs and Energy on its examination of the reports of the Auditor General on the financial statements of selected state corporations laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, 6th December 2023. As members of that opinion say aye. Aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next order.
Order number 9, the Care and Protection of Child Parents Bill, Senate Bill number 23 of 2023, first reading. A bill for an act of parliament to provide a framework for the care and protection of child parents within the counties, to provide a framework through which an expectant girl child or a child parent may actualize their right to basic education and at the same time ensure the care of their children and for connected purposes. Order number 10, the National Government Administration Laws Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 73 of 2023. Resumption of debate.
Yes, Honorable Andai.
Honorable Speaker, I'm rising once again under Standing Order 47-3B. Yes, just keep it for me. Honorable Speaker, I just want to seek your indulgence.
When you say you are rising again, did you rise before?
I had risen some time last week on the same standing order, but for today, allow me to just seek your indulgence for me to raise certain issues.
Standing order number?
47-3B, read together with the celebrated ruling of Speaker J.B. Muturi.
Let me get you right. You rose on this same issue within this same debate?
No. I'm
what
rising.
Do you mean by rising again?
Maybe I withdraw the remark, I withdraw the term again. And I simply say I'm rising under Standing Order 47-3B. Which is actually self-explanatory. I don't want to belabor. But I want to... Can we have some order here, Madam Speaker? Madam Speaker, the Shamba Budget Committee and Agriculture Committee Chair and the Honorable Member for Nyan are having a baraza here.
Honorable Ndinde and Okello.
They're actually hugging, Honorable Speaker, across the aisle. Honorable Speaker, the Standing Order 47-3B is quite clear. It's quite unambiguous. And if the Speaker is of the opinion that any proposed motion, and the motion here refers to both motions and bills, Honorable Speaker.
I know so.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
At B is contrary to the Constitution or an act of Parliament without expressly proposing appropriate amendment to the Constitution of or the Act of Parliament. Then you go further. The Speaker may direct that either the motion is inadmissible or that notice of it cannot be given without such alteration as the Speaker may approve, or that the motion be referred to the relevant committee of the Assembly pursuant to Article 114(2) of the Constitution. But I want to take you back, Honorable Speaker, to take you to the now celebrated ruling by your predecessor, the Right Honorable J.B. Muturi. Honorable Speaker, the Honorable J.B. Muturi, on 21st December 2021, in a ruling on the constitutionality of the Proceeds of Crime and Anti-Money Laundering Amendment Bill, had this to say, very, very briefly. Had this to say, I can see the clerk is consulting with you. Okay. The Honorable Muturi, in his ruling on this particular day, was simply saying that before I guide the House on the pertinent questions for determination, it is worth noting that Articles 3 and 10 of the Constitution oblige the Chair to respect, uphold, and defend the Constitution. As you are aware, all business that comes before the House is approved by the Speaker, and among other considerations, the Speaker applies his mind as to the constitutionality or otherwise of such business as contemplated under Standing Order 47.3. Let me also hasten to add that notwithstanding the approval of any business by the chair here implies the speaker, under the standing orders, it has now become an established parliamentary practice of this House that a question of the constitutionality or otherwise of any matter under consideration by the House may be raised at any stage of its consideration. Indeed, my predecessors and I have been invited on several occasions to guide the House on issues of constitutionality of various matters before the House. Honorable Speaker, that ruling read together with the Standing Order 47.3b is what I'm relying on to plead with you to allow me to raise these constitutional issues concerning the motion under consideration, that is the National Government Administration Laws Amendment Bill 2023. And I will proceed, Honorable Speaker, to say as follows, and very, very briefly so, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, Article 3 and Article 10 are clear. I don't want to really read them. Members are now conversant with those two articles provide for. But I've got issues, two issues in this bill. I'm aware the relevant committee, the Committee of Justice and Legal Affairs, has dealt with some of the issues. But there are two issues in this bill that I wouldn't want this House to proceed with and vote on while we know that we'll be acting in vain. Honorable Speaker, we'll be acting in vain. And this House cannot afford to act in vain. Honorable Speaker, the two issues are to do with, first, the establishment of the office of the head of public service. Two is the establishment of the office of what? Oh, called what is it? CSS are called what? The Chief Administrative Secretaries. Those two offices, as contemplated in the bill, are outrightly unconstitutional. And therefore this House cannot proceed, should not really proceed to process this bill in the manner it is currently crafted. And I would really be inviting you to make a ruling before we can proceed with this motion. But let me say this. First, on the issue of the head of public service, Honorable Speaker, the bill is attempting to establish the office of the head of public service, Honorable Speaker, outside the Constitution. When you read the Constitution at Article 154, Article 154 of the Constitution establishes the office of the Secretary to the Cabinet with very clear functions and powers, Honorable Speaker. And I won't read them because they are clear. Members can read for themselves. Article 154. As a matter of fact, if you allow me, 154, because I want to be mindful of time. 154, there is established the office of the Secretary to the Cabinet, which is an office in the public service. It goes on and on to enumerate the functions of this office as one, being in charge of the cabinet office, two, being responsible for arranging the business and keeping the minutes of the cabinet, and three, conveying the decisions of the cabinet to the appropriate persons or authorities, four, to have other functions as directed by the cabinet. Honorable Speaker, if you go to the bill, what the bill is assigning this office is laughable. And I'll be asking Honorable Mboy to assist me for the time being.
Let me listen to him.
Which page is that? This bill, Honorable Speaker, is attempting to assign the proposed head of the public office to be the chief of staff of the president. to be the administrative head of the executive office of the president, and previously to be the custodian of the seal, which I'm thinking now the committee has removed, okay, and so on and so forth, and to perform any such other functions as may be assigned by the president. Honorable Speaker, there is nothing in these functions as proposed in the bill that are not being performed by the Secretary of the Cabinet, which is a constitutional office established under Article 154 of the Constitution. So in other words, this House is being invited to create some kind of mongorel, to create some kind of office that will superintend over a constitutional office. Honorable Speaker, Honorable Speaker, we are being invited in broad daylight to establish an office through an act of parliament, to lord over a constitutional office under Article 154 of the Constitution, Honorable Speaker. That to me is outrightly unconstitutional. There is no other way you can keep it, Honorable Speaker. If you really want to establish such an office with distinct functions, then there is no shortcut. Just go to the Constitution and amend it. Amend the Constitution and remove powers from the Cabinet, from the Secretary of the Cabinet, and assign them to the office of the Head of Public Service. But more importantly, Honorable Speaker, the Head of Public Service is also going to attempt to perform functions that are only meant for the Public Service Commission. Public Service Commission, under Article 233 of the Constitution, Honorable Speaker. We are not even aware, I'm not even aware, because the bill is silent. Is this office, is this a state office or a public office? It's not even clear here. Because if it were a state office, it will be a different ballot, because there's no way you can establish a state office through an ordinary statute and stand to be corrected. You cannot. You cannot. And you cannot establish a public office which can only be done by the Public Service Commission and make it superior to a constitutional office under Article 154 of the Constitution. That is my issue with that particular office. I want to go to the second office. The office of the Chief Administrative Secretary. Honorable Speaker, Article 152 of the Constitution is very clear. It is the article that establishes the cabinet, and the cabinet is clearly composed of the president, the deputy president, the attorney general, and who? And the cabinet secretaries. Okay? I give a specific number of cabinet secretaries. Honorable Speaker, the Constitution goes ahead at Article 155 and establishes the office of the Principal Secretary. Honorable Speaker, the architecture of the Constitution, if you read it logically, Honorable Speaker, you will see that from the Cabinet Secretary, the second in line is the Principal Secretary, with distinct functions. Distinct functions. I want to read for you one of the functions of the Principal Secretary under Article 155. Article 155 of the Constitution. There is established the office of the Principal Secretary, which is an office in the public service. Which is an office in the public service. Honorable Speaker, I'm looking for the functions of the cabinet of the Principal Secretary. Honorable Speaker, 155, yes. 155, no, my eyes are failing me. Okay. Okay, add 155 sub-article 2. Each state department shall be under the administration of a Principal Secretary. Under the administration of a Principal Secretary. The Constitution did not contemplate that at some point in time, a House of Parliament would sit and purport to establish another office outside the Constitution, to be somewhere between the Cabinet Secretary and the Principal Secretary. There is nowhere. The Constitution, the drafters of the Constitution could not have imagined that at some point in time a parliament would create an office outside the Constitution, would create an office through a statute, an ordinary statute.
Order. There's a point of order from.
But I am also on a point of order.
Use the mic.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. May I draw the attention of my minority leader to Article 132, Sub-Article 4 of the Constitution of Kenya, which provides that the President may perform any other executive function provided for in this Constitution or in a national legislation, and except as otherwise provided for in this Constitution, may establish an office in the public service in accordance with the recommendations of the Public Service Commission. While he's at it, may he address that particular point? That's the Constitution of Kenya. Thank you.
And let me educate my good friend, the Honorable Karoli. The same Constitution under Article 234, Sub-Article 3A. Okay? Just go to Article 234, Sub-Article 3A. And it says clauses 1 and 2 shall not apply to any of the following offices in the public services. One is state offices. In other words, the Public Service Commission cannot establish a state office. If you go to this bill, the Chief Administrative Secretary is characterized as a state office. Honorable Speaker, I think he is now properly educated. Honorable Speaker, there is no way an office.
Wind up.
Okay, I'm winding up. And I'm very happy that, Honorable Speaker, that you've given me this kind of opportunity to address these issues.
I've overindulged you.
You've overindulged me. Honorable Speaker, if you look at the functions of the Chief Admin Secretary in the bill, Honorable Mbui again help me. Okay. Very, very briefly. The functions of the Chief Admin Secretary. He or she shall be responsible for, among other things, responding to issues relating to the portfolio assigned to the office, liaising, representing the Cabinet Secretary at any meeting, performing any other duties assigned by the Office of the Attorney General and Cabinet Secretary. In other words, a plain reading of this bill tells you that the Chief Admin Secretary shall be responsible to the Cabinet Secretary. In other words, he or she shall not be responsible to the Principal Secretary. So in short, you are creating this office above that of the Principal Secretary. He is essentially a Deputy Cabinet Secretary. And you are creating this office outside the Constitution. Mr. Honorable Speaker, this is an arena that we should be careful not to venture into. Because if we do so, we shall be setting ourselves as a house to very needless litigation. And you know the verdict, Honorable Speaker, without really preempting. These ones, if it goes to any court, will be declared unconstitutional. So why should we waste time? Why must we waste taxpayers' time deliberating on these issues which are very clearly unconstitutional? Therefore, I want to plead with you. I want to urge you, Honorable Speaker, that you discontinue this debate and retreat to make a considered ruling on the issues I have raised before the processing of this motion or bill can proceed, yes, one way or the other. With those preliminary remarks, I rest my case. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Again, there's a misconception here. If you look at Article 234, it took me a bit of time to get it. The powers of the public service, the disciplinary powers of the public service, the power to hire, fire, and discipline, are what are restricted in terms of how they exercise those powers in relation to state officers. Because there are special procedures for state officers when you exercise those powers as a public service. And I can give him an example. I was the first chief of staff in the Republic of Kenya. When we created that office, there was no power. But the president had the power, executive power, to organize his executive office. So did the prime minister. So there are offices in a presidential system of government that are created not necessarily by law. If you check the history of chief of staff in the United States, the first holder was a presidential appointee by executive order. And over time it has gained currency. Simply because in a presidential system, such as the one we have, there are officers that cannot exercise both what you call bureaucratic power as well as political power. A permanent secretary cannot interface in a presidential system with parliament. So in a presidential system such as the one in the United States, the presidents have their chiefs of staff who can exercise both bureaucratic power as well as executive power and interface politically with Congress. And that power is vested in the president. And what he's quoting under Article 234 limit the authority of public service in terms of hiring, disciplining, and directing the state officers. But it does not extend, it does not limit the power of the president under Article 132 to establish offices in the executive as he so wishes. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Murugara hold. Jared Okello.
Yes.
On the same issue. Murugara, you are the chair of the committee. Hold. I'll come back to you.
Honorable Speaker.
Hold your horses, Murugara.
Honorable Speaker, even as I align myself with the sentiments as expressed by my brother, Honorable Wandai, I did read the ruling by the High Court on this same matter, Honorable Speaker, with a tooth comb, because I needed to understand the gist of this entire issue. And one thing that caught my attention, Honorable Speaker, is what the court said, that we are being governed by a constitutional dispensation of the year 2010. And this constitution went into details as highlighting these offices, some of which are now under question. And one fundamental issue that these judges raised is that the position of cabinet secretaries, chief cabinet secretary, chief administrative secretary, was going to be a person just between the cabinet secretary and the principal secretary. So by inference, chief administrative secretary is a boss to a principal secretary. And Honorable Speaker, what the court said that we are still not addressing holistically is that if Kenyans thought that that office was going to be as important as this House would want to make it, the Kenyans would have put it into law in the Constitution. And the court went on to say that if indeed this position will be as important, Kenyans will have to have a say on it by way of a referendum, Honorable Speaker. Why straddle a very important consideration in enactment of these offices, Honorable Speaker? So even as you retreat to come up with an in-depth ruling, as you have always done before, let us try to look at the participation of Kenyans as infusing this office into law, Honorable Speaker. Otherwise, we were so embarrassed as a House by the decision of this court, or of our courts, and I don't want this House to be always subjected to another round of embarrassment each time we create laws here. Honorable Speaker, we don't make laws in vain, and therefore let us go deep and look into this. I know there are people who are angling for jobs, those who campaigned for UDA or Kenya Kwanza by extension, and they are so desperate to have something in their name. But let us do things according to the dictates of our laws and not overreach and hence face embarrassment in our courts of law, Honorable Speaker. I thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Tedious repetition. I think
Mr. Speaker, this office, historically, I can remember I was in government when the Constitution of 2010 was in process. Historically, this came from the office of then Assistant Minister. That's where this all comes from. And what the Constitution at that time, the argument at that time, that often it was found that the assistant ministers really didn't have specific jobs that they were doing. As permanent secretary, we are always asked, without much guidance, that to just ensure your assistant minister has something to do, assign them jobs to do. And therefore, the argument that came when the Constitution was coming was basically that this is not necessary, and therefore that position of the assistant minister was removed. And that is how later on, after the Constitution had been in place, the new government was being put, then it was felt that we needed chief administrative secretary.
What you are saying is incorrect. I was an assistant minister for 5 years, and my letter of appointment from the president specifically listed out what my duties and responsibilities were as an assistant minister.
Basically, those duties, Mr. Speaker, with all due respect.
The minister never operated at the whim of the minister.
With due respect, with all due respect, Mr. Speaker, those actually were just to assist the minister. Basically, all of them. But let's not go into that argument. Now, when we come to this, Mr. Speaker, if you look at the positions that they're supposed to do, if they're going to liaise with the parliament, or this parliament, every time we have had to interact with, there's been we have been very clear that we need to liaise with the cabinet secretary. Now, this position is creating another level. Mr. Minister, if you're saying they are going to liaise with the county government on matters of concurrent mandate, Mr. Speaker, we have the Intergovernmental Relations Technical Committee, whose job is basically that. So again, that is not. Then providing interministerial and sectoral coordination. We have the office, like in this case, the cabinet secretary who is actually dealing with that matter, whole cabinet secretary. So once again, why are we creating this position? Mr. Speaker, representing the cabinet secretary in any meeting, that actually is where the issue started. And so we are just going backwards. So Mr. Speaker, I just wanted to add that we are actually going backwards in terms of our constitutionalism. So what we have actually changed in 2010, we are clawing back and bringing them through statutes. And I think that is not, I'm not a lawyer, but I don't think that is very proper.
Are you done? Morogara? Yes, Chepkonga.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. You know, to have located this matter properly, I expected the minority leader to have quoted extensively from the case law. This matter has been litigated upon, Mr. Speaker. He knows the decision of the court in Kenyatta 2, when this position was declared to be unconstitutional. It was declared to be unconstitutional because there was no law that established it. In fact, the advice from court at that time, Mr. Speaker, was go and pass the law in Parliament. What they decided was not to pass the law. Article 94 of the Constitution, Mr. Speaker, which I'd like to happily read to my very good friend, the Honorable Wandai, the minority leader. If you read Article 94.2, 94.5, it says no person or body other than Parliament has the power to make provision having the force of law in Kenya except under authority conferred by this Constitution or by legislation. Mr. Speaker,
It is the very reason why this bill is in this house this afternoon. In fact, so that we can debate, agree, disagree. And Mr. Speaker, the second issue that I expected the minority leader to have addressed, he should have read the report of the committee, and he would have seen very clearly that his side, except one, the Honorable Atienda Molo, dissented with regard to the matters that were raised in this bill. So unless, Mr. Speaker, we are being held hostage by the minority leader on account of the Honorable Atienda Molo's advice, which I want to believe that he has taken legal advice from a minority, a report of the committee, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, if you read Article 232, which my very good friend, the former Chief of Staff, 132, Mr. Speaker, he has clearly stated the position. The only thing that the minority leader did was to skirt around, not wanting to address the issue, because he had been advised by the Honorable Atienda Molo, so he could not depart from it. No. How can you point of order where you received advice from a dissenting member?
Yes, Wandai.
Honorable Speaker, I don't think the Honorable Chakonga is in order to continually imply that I got legal advice from the Honorable Atienda Molo. He is, in essence, casting aspersions on my ability, my capacity to decipher legal and constitutional issues and to actually articulate them in the manner I have always done here. Yeah, is he in order? Could you rule him out of order, Honorable Speaker?
I don't know if Atienda Molo advised you, but it's not wrong to be advised. Especially when you are the leader the way you are. Why is Robert Mbui next to you? He's your assistant and he advises you. And even when you started the argument, you said, Mbui will help me as I go along. Go on. Give Chepkonga the mic.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Wind up, Chepkonga.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, you know, I don't know why anyone would have a problem with my co-chair, in which, you know, Mr. Speaker, you appointed the caucus of lawyers to represent this House. And he knows he receives ample advice from the Honorable Atienda Molo. So we have no problem. He's a senior counsel, Mr. Speaker. So in fact, to receive counsel from senior counsel, it's very good. And in fact, you should be very happy with it. Mr. Speaker, you know, Article 234 of the Constitution gives power to the Public Service Commission to create and abolish offices. Mr. Speaker, so you know, the Public Service Commission indeed created the offices, and as a consequence of that, it was said that there was no law. In fact, Mr. Speaker, so that you can anchor this into the law, that is the very reason why this legislation, this bill is pending before this House this afternoon.
You've made your point.
Thank you.
Murugara.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let me thank you for allowing this debate to go on and commend you for that. But unfortunately, what has been raised as a point of order by the leader of minority is actually the dissent of Honorable Atienda Molo to the committee report, or reports which we have already tabled in this House. Unfortunately, the leader of majority never took time to read those reports. The minority leader did not take time to read the two reports. We have the substantive report and an addendum. And these actually would have settled his issues. And may I confirm to the House that those reports are now reports of the House. And therefore, whatever is in there are acts of this House and cannot be wished away. First and foremost, may I speak about the head of public service. That office substantially differs with what we have in this particular bill. And the reason it differs is because we also, as a committee, had issues in the way it was being formed. Therefore, we had to align the formation of that office with...
There's a point of order from...
Yes.
Member for Funyula. What's the point of order?
I had to disrupt or to interrupt my good friend Sir George, and Sir George used to be a good man the last time. Point of Honorable Speaker, what the leader of minority is making reference to is the bill. What has been indicated on the order paper is the bill. The committee report is not in the order paper. So for Sir George to refer to us the committee report that's not on the order paper, I will need your guidance, Honorable Speaker, because we have been making this mistake, whether it's a mistake or it's not a mistake, continuously, and we must draw that line very clear.